agent, I got to know. So now I'm down at the 94 draft. It's in Indianapolis. Big Dog Robinson's going to go number 1. His agent is representing him and Jalen Rose. And he calls me, he says, why don't you come down with the camera crew and I'll let you interview Glenn and Jalen that afternoon for an exclusive, like behind the scenes. So I take my camera guy, he still works with me to this day, Jeff Corbett at Comcast Sportsnet, and we drive down there. We do the interviews, we get on the elevator, and this guy's looking at me on the elevator, I don't know who he is, and he said, hey, are you Cap? Yep. He said, I'm going to get to know you, I'm going to get to see a lot more of you. Why is that? I'm headed to Chicago right now. This is the day of the draft. He said, our number 1 client just got traded to the Bulls. I got to meet his plane, and he's got to pass a physical before the draft tonight for it to be official. Who's your number 1 client? Sean Kemp of the Seattle Sonics. Sean Kemp just got traded to the Bulls. Yep. And who did we give up? He said, Scottie Pippen. Hold on a second. We traded Scottie Pippen to the Sonics for Sean Kemp, he tells me Ricky Pierce, and the 11th overall pick in the first round. He goes, it's a done deal, he just got to pass the physical. Well, how am I going to break this story? I can't just go on the air and say, hey, I met this lunatic in an elevator in Indianapolis, and here's what's going to happen. So I start working the phones, and I get a hold of his boss, who is Sean's agent, who I'd done trading card deals with. And he said, it's a done deal. Don't quote me, but it's done. So I break the story, and it goes viral everywhere. In fact, they opened the draft coverage that night. There is a report out of Chicago, blah, 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 that Scottie Pippen's been traded for Sean Kemp, and Chicago is going to get the 11th pick that belonged to Seattle. Well, as you know, Scottie played for the Bulls many years after that, so the trade doesn't happen. Jerry Krause gets up at the press conference to announce whoever they took, and he says, I don't know where David Kaplan made that story up, but we did not discuss this with Seattle. So I'm getting crushed all over town. And my bosses call me in, they're like, well, you reported this story like it was fact. How could you be so wrong? I said, I'm telling you, I'm not wrong. So now it dies down. I get a phone call from a guy named Mark Warkentine. He's scouting for the Blazers. I knew him when he was an assistant for the University of Nevada, Las Vegas fraternity. He says, can we interview you? These 3 kids, we have 3 number 1 picks in the draft. These 3 kids played for me on an AAU team I coached. They all have me as a reference. So I go meet him at the Fairmont downtown. I do this interview about these kids. It's Donnie Boyce, Sherelle Ford, and Michael Finley. I coached all of them. So they tape this interview, we get done. I said, hey, Mark, I lost touch with you after you left Vegas. You go right to Portland? No, I was actually assistant general manager in Seattle, and then I came to Portland a year ago. Hold on a second. You worked for the Sonics. Did you guys make a trade, Scottie Pippen, Sean Kemp? And he said, that's a really sore subject. I don't want to discuss it. He said, you have to tell me what happened. He said, I'll tell you what happened. We traded a cocaine addict with 8 kids from 7 different women for a Hall of Famer, and some asshole in the Chicago media got a hold of it, and our owner freaked out, and the trade blew up. Honest to God, true story. So I said, well, meet the asshole in the Chicago media, that's me. He goes, dude, you single-handedly blew up the trade because it went crazy in Seattle. They loved the Rain Man, Sean Kemp. People started canceling season tickets. And so his owner freaked out and said, I'm not signing off on the deal, you can't make it. Well, George Karl was the head coach. And one of my best friends in the world was Rick Majerus. Rick dies last December. So I come back from my vacation to go to his funeral. It's in Milwaukee. It's on Marquette's campus. As I'm walking up to the church, I swear to you this is true, there's George Karl, because he and Rick were best friends. I've never met George Karl. I walk up to him, I said, George, I'm David Kaplan, I'm a friend of Rick's. He goes, TV radio guy in Chicago? Yeah, Rick spoke of you. I said, can I ask you a quick question? True story. He said, sure, what's up? I said, did you guys make a trade in Seattle for Scottie Pippen? He said, yeah, let me tell you what happened. He goes, Jerry Krause gave it to this idiot in Chicago media. I said, that's not true. He said, what do you mean it's not true? I said, because I'm the idiot in the Chicago media, and I got it from Sean's agent. He said, if I had seen you then, I would have beaten you to death. And he says he'll come on the air and talk about it if I ever want to discuss it on the air. That's a true story. The Bulls ended up offering $1 million in cash to the Sonics when they said they wouldn't make the deal. Went to $3 million in cash, begging him to make the trade. It never went through, and Scotty stays with the Bulls. We win 3 more titles.
All right, we'll take one more question because we all got to get back to work at some point, unfortunately.
For the Blackhawks to come off a shortened season and then come right back into it. The parade was like 2 months ago, and all of a sudden here we are. Now it's a full 82-game season plus the Olympics to try and repeat.
Well, I've been in that situation in '93 when I was a player with the Montreal Canadiens, and obviously it wasn't a short season, but coming back after winning a championship is always difficult to repeat. I think only once in 22 years it happened. Detroit has, I think you're right. And but you know, talking to the players, I talked to Sharp last Monday, and I asked him how he's feeling, and all that kind of stuff. And he goes, you know, he says, I feel great. He says, I've been on the ice for a month, so they've had a chance to even skate for the last month here. The only thing that changes a lot is that the fact that they don't train off ice. And this team here, the reason why they've won it, they've kept themselves in great shape and were able to play, you know, in playoffs this year throughout the whole series is because they work out in the summer. So that'll be a little bit of a change because their work regimen in the summer is probably not as good as it was the past years. But they will tell you that they won't look for excuses, just like you guys. That's why you're number one. You guys find ways to stay at number one. It's always difficult to stay up there, but you know that they're going to put up the effort and the work ethic, and as we know, their skill, but they're going to find a way to try to get it done. Hopefully they'll be the team that's going to do it second time in 23 years. So looking forward to the season. I believe that, you know, I know Cap's got questions to ask me, but to follow up on some of the stuff that's gone on over the summer. I know we've lost some players through some trades. What you saw what Stan Bowman has done in the last couple of weeks is able to sign some of the guys we want to keep here for a long time. This is Crawford was one of them, Yarmulson. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but you know, our core guys are going Bickle, exactly, big signing. Yeah, what a great playoff he had. But you know, be able to keep all our core guys together is a big key. And you'll see we've got a lot of kids coming up. Just to name a few, Brendan Peary, a kid that led the American League last year in scoring. He's a centerman with lots of skill. You got a kid by last name by Morin, who's a winger. That I believe last year he scored 30-some goals in the minors. And anytime you score 30 goals in the minor leagues, in the American League, your next step is to play in the NHL. And a kid by the name of Jimmy Hayes that we saw here in a few games in the last couple of years that's been with our team. So I don't think we'll miss a beat. Those kids are going to come and help us win another championship, I hope. To my right side, and the guy that was standing on this side, the defenseman, came across. So I just said, well, I better shoot it before he kills me. So I shot the puck and went in. So bad goalie, really. just inside the blue line. You know, let me tell you a story because I think, you know, when I was coaching the Hawks, obviously I got the opportunity to coach some great kids, and you guys have made a great decision. You know, having your spokesperson as Jonathan Tays and Patrick Kane. They're great kids. But when I saw Patrick Kane the first year, you know, in training camp, and I was very impressed how he plays. I could see his vision. I could see his thinking on the ice, how he plays. And I saw a lot of things that I did that he's done throughout my career. So throughout the first couple preseason game and couple first regular season game, I tell my video coordinator, Stewie, I said, hey, Stu, I said, I want you to do me a favor. I said, find some stuff about my game. You know, offensive plays, forechecking, you know, back checking, finishing my checks, and so forth. So I said, you know, you don't have to do it today, but I said, try to get it done within the next couple of days. So in hockey, there's a lot of video that goes on, so your video coordinator might forget to do stuff. So a week later, I said, hey, Stu, I said, what about that video? Did you get that done yet? He says, yeah. He says, I got it done. He says, the only problem, he said, you know, I saw you make some great offensive play. I saw you score goals. I saw you finishing your check. I saw you forecheck. He says, the last thing he says, I didn't see you back check. I says, I got that covered. We're just going to rewind the tape when I see Patrick. So, we've had, obviously, especially with Patrick, you guys know that, was let go. It was a tough day for him. He didn't like the fact that I was let go. Everything turned out to be for the best. We got a great coach in Joe Quenneville, and went on to win 2 Stanley Cups in the last 4 years. And I'm very comfortable I'm at in life. As I said earlier, the Hawks are taking care of me, and very fortunate to be part of this organization today. And as we say, like you guys are, we're a team. So, I bring a different product to our team now, and different role, but I enjoy what I'm doing.
Remember Dan Evans used to be the general manager of the Dodgers. He's a dear friend. He's scouting now for the Blue Jays. He spent time, he had a handful of teams that were his responsibility for Toronto. One of them was the Cubs. He saw our Boise team, our Tennessee team, our Kane County team, our Iowa team, and he said, wow, your boys finally got it right. He said, they're loaded. He can't believe how good Javier Baez is, Chris Bryant. We've got enough in the system with another high pick coming, obviously, after this season that they'll get in June. I really believe that they're going to struggle next year, and then I think 2015 you'll see Baez here, probably Albert Almora, Soler, Chris Bryant, and you'll start to see an influx of all these young kids, and then with the renovations coming, they'll start to spend. Now, I am not a fan of our manager, and I have made no secret of that on TV or radio. I don't think you'll win with Dale Swaim. I will be surprised if he's the manager 2 years from now. I look at Castro, he's gone backwards. I look at Rizzo, he's gone backwards. Samardzija, backwards. Darwin Barney, and I love Darwin Barney. He's as good a guy as I've ever dealt with. But his on-base percentage, anyone in this room could have a 260 on-base percentage. I mean, I don't understand what is going on, why some of the key pieces that they have all regressed. And at some point, that blows back on the manager. Fair or unfair? Dennis was a coach. Do the players get the job done or not? More often than not, it's their fault, not the coach. But at some point, I think it's going to blow back on him.
Thank you.
It's a winning business, obviously.
That's it.